Hi, my name is Steve Ann Smith, and I am your host for My Little Podcast. My Little Podcast is an interview-based podcast that explores the world of creatives through intimate and thoughtful conversations that seek to inspire and spark discovery through artistic curiosity. This show is for the community of artists, musicians, podcasters, journalists, authors, and content creators that find their purpose through art. We are all interconnected by our love for things we see beyond ourselves. This is my way of sharing our gifts with a larger audience in hopes of contributing to a future that sees life through joy, celebration, and prosperity. Allow us to share your story. Subscribe to My Little Podcast wherever you enjoy podcast listening. Welcome to Hip Hop Now Podcast. If you're from the future, you know what to do. Get your ass out of here. Don't disrespect the legend. Hip hop is here to stay. Let's get right into the business.
What up, y'all? I am your host, Vegas, and this is Hip Hop Now Podcast, a podcast specifically designed to keep you caught up on all things hip-hop music and culture that happened throughout the week. Big shout out to the supporters over at patreon.com/hiphopnow. And if you would like to learn what that's all about, well, click on the link in the description of this episode, whether you are watching on YouTube on the Hip Hop Now Podcast channel or listening on your favorite podcasting app. And if you're a first-time viewer, first-time listener, welcome. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and more importantly, share with people you know enjoy this kind of content. Big shout out to hiphopdx.com, allhiphop.com, Hot New Hip Hop, and a couple of places where I get some of my stories from. Before we get right into the business, let me just say this, stay tuned, because 50 years of hip hop, I have some more bonus content on the way to commemorate, celebrate, and demonstrate bars. What real hip hop analytics is about from a hip hop fan such as myself. Let's get right into the business. Young Guru says that Timbaland's initiative to bring AI to a profitable and I guess successful status in hip hop is corny and a problem. Let's go to hiphopdx.com where we get some more info on this and get exactly what he said. Well, let's get what Timbaland was saying. Now, I mentioned this before in a previous episode, especially when I did the whole AI thing, but about Timbaland really being excited by AI, in particular with MCs that are no longer here, which we'll get into the morals and ethics of that. But let me see, this is what I believe Timbaland saying. It's going to really be a new way of creating a new way of generating money with less costs. I'm already here. This is what I'm doing. I'm going to lead the way. So Timbaland's hyped about this new initiative. But Young Guru, and if you don't know who I'm talking about, I am not talking about Guru of Gangstar. Rest in peace. I'm talking about Young Guru, famously known as Jay-Z's go-to engineer. You've heard him shout him out numerous times. But he said in response to Timbaland with this new initiative, "I love you, my brother. You know I do, but this ain't it. This is dangerous and at a basic level, it's corny. I will be on the side of the Luddites. I have no idea what that means, but I'll look it up. How do I feel about it? Well, I don't like it. I like technology. I like the fact that this tech is available. But for what it seems like Timbaland's trying to do with it, even though he's probably right, it will make money, there's sort of an ethical issue that I have with it. Because sure, Tupac, Biggie, Pun, Eazy, who else? Who else we can name? Big L, right? We can name all the Nipsey. We can name all these rappers we lost who estates dictate what you can do with their likeness. That being their face, their voice, whatever, and even their music in some cases, whatever they have control of. And I kind of feel like I would rather know what Big L wants, right? Or I would rather know what Pun or Tupac really wants, what they would feel about this. Now, let's not assume just because these brothers are gone that we know they would be totally against it. Biggie was talking about retirement after life after death. He was seriously talking about it. He was saying it all the time. He might look at something like this like, go ahead. Send me the bag. If they're going to buy it and they, and I could go and perform it maybe once or twice, whatever. But they're not here. And like I said, I watched that video of Timbaland saying, there are artists that I never got a chance to work with. And that song he had with Biggie on the surface, it was not whack to me. But the thing is as much as it's his voice, as much as it's his breaths in between the bars, we know Big didn't write it. We know that someone else has to try to nail down the thing, and the AI, the things that Biggie would say. But if we go into terms of people who are still around, who were around in the 90s, like a Jay-Z or Nas, Big wasn't around to have a career that was like this in the same way they did, right? To try different things, to fail, right? Big and Pac died successful. They were successful. They were on top of the rap game at the time they passed. Same thing with Nipsey. He was rising. So they could put out something that could sound dope, but you got to ask yourself as a hip hop fan, what was it that you liked about Nipsey? His perspective, right? You can't really use AI to generate that without trying to find someone who's I guess studying Nipsey's interviews and his albums and the things he says and does so much that that's the only way it'll sound like Nipsey wrote it. But the problem with that is, like I said about Jay-Z and Nas throughout time being able to do the up and down with their career, right? Whack album, dope album, whatever, is the fact that they have grown wiser with experience, right? Even if you don't want to call it wiser, their experience stands out in their music, right? Nas in his whole King's Disease run, God forbid, even though it didn't happen, but let's just say, if Nas was the one that lost his life in his 20s, right? Well, then we're getting a different Nas today if we follow this whole AI thing. We're not getting the mature Nas that's been around all these years, that's more, giving off more wisdom in his rhymes. We getting Escobar at a time where it's been 20 plus years, and I don't know if we want that. Or maybe some of y'all do. I don't know. But I think it's an interesting topic. I agree with Young Guru. In a lot of ways, I see what Timbaland is saying. Like, maybe there's a way to do this that's not just resurrecting MCs that passed away, but I'm gonna tell you right now, not that long ago, people were up in arms because an AI rapper got a record deal, right? Then it went quiet. Now that they're able to take voices of people you know and make those rappers, and now you're talking about, well, who wants to sign AI Biggie to their label because we put this single out and it went crazy? Who want to sign him, right? Who's going to stop somebody who's really busy, like a Drake, who's had ghostwriters every now and again, from saying, okay, there's been a fake Drake album out or mixtape, but if I put my next album out, it's guaranteed that they're going to think it's me. But what if Drake just uses AI, right? What if he just has concepts? And this is the last thing I'm going to say. What if he just has concepts? And this for anybody who writes, anybody who's a rapper. You don't record everything you write, because some things you knew were dope and that's why you recorded it. Other things you were a little bit on the fence, couldn't really finish it in the way you thought you wanted to, right? Like, you can say what the concept is, but you really haven't been able to find the right words to put that entire song together. But if you sit down with AI, maybe AI could finish some of those raps for you, polish off that content or that concept for you. You see what I mean? It's going to be used, and it's going to be used by people who are current musicians and not musicians, but, you know, hip hop artists who will see the shortcuts and say to themselves, wow, album almost done. How about I don't even have to look? All right, this is the last thing, y'all. This is the last thing. How about I could go on tour and I'm supposed to deliver an album by 2 months from now, but I could pay my homie to just create, just constantly every day, generate my music, using my voice, using my concepts, using my thoughts, using songs to see whatever, right? And by the time I go sit down with him, he like, boom, okay, today I got 20 songs, and we just listen to them. And we listen for the imperfection in the delivery. And then maybe I punch some of those, not physically punch people, those who that don't know. I go in and I fill in the blanks, or I smooth out certain parts. Not only can you make more money because you're not, this is going to become expensive, by the way, if this ever happens, but you're saving time. You're finding time to not only deliver without the pressure on a deadline, but you could also get another bag while that's happening. I'm not saying any of this is going to happen, but there's a road of ethics and quality and integrity that will get blurry, specifically with hip hop. It will get blurry because unlike singers, right, you still got to be able to sing, right? But with rappers, just memorize that joint. You can listen to that joint and memorize the whole thing to the point where now you perform it and it's you, but it's not. So there you have it. Ludacris wants to come back to rap to see if he still has it. Now, some of you might be saying, I didn't realize he was gone. Neither did I. But he did lean heavier into the acting side of his career. And sure, yeah, it's been a while since we've heard that there was a Ludacris album coming out. But this is what he said. He wants to prove that he still got it. And he's put up a couple of freestyles on Instagram to prove that. But I think in a lot of ways with this new Fast and Furious. Fast and Furious 10, not X. That X is a 10, Roman, whatever. But it's convenient, right? Ludacris got a movie coming out. So he gonna get a little shine, a little buzz. He gonna be in the public eye a little bit more. Why don't I start promoting some music I want to come out? And I believe he has the music already on deck. Let's see what he has to say. I wonder if these are bars. When I was young, I feel like some of my favorite rappers, once they get to a certain point, it's almost like you wish they were still kind of hungry and you feel like they don't have it necessarily like they used to. I never wanted to be that, so it's extremely important for me to prove to people that even though I'm doing all this other stuff, make no mistake, I still got it. I'm still hungry. I like that, right? I like that. I mean, he's still an MC. If you ask me if you can still spit like that, you dope, and you still have the passion to do it, I don't see why you should stop. Especially for someone like him when he has the money, if he wanted to just finance an album or a mixtape or quick, EP, he could. I just wonder if the interest is still there. Because, see, this is the thing with Ludacris. Ludacris is nice. He's nice with it. He could spit. But he became so, I'm not going to say it for the pause guards out there, but he became so successful as a rapper on a mainstream level because of antics. His videos were wild. His hooks were wild, right? It was more like fun, than anything. And then there was a point, I think it's the joint called like Masterpiece or something like that, where he really wanted to focus on just being lyrical. Which he did. That's, to me, is one of his better albums. I think he had Jay-Z and Nas on there. Like, he was really trying to plant his flag lyrically, right? And then, that was a long time ago. Like, my son, who was probably, honestly, not even born for the most part, when Ludacris was popping like that, he doesn't know that Ludacris at all. He knows the dude he's seen in films, similar to how some people are with Ice Cube. They don't know that Ice Cube from the early 90s. They know Big Three and actor, comedic actor at that. So it's one of those things where it's like, I'm not mad. I'm happy Ludacris wants to come back to the game, but do you care if he comes back? I'm curious to see what he has as far as music. Because if you're going to say that, you're going to put that out there, oh, well, it better be flames, right? The bars better be right, because if not, then you should go back to just strictly acting. But I don't think Ludacris is that kind of dude where that's going to be the result. So we'll see. And lastly, there's a rapper named Billy Woods who recently put out an album with Kenny Siegel, right? And it's called Maps. And I'm familiar with Billy Woods because of features he was on and Needle Drop, right? What's his name? Anthony Fantano, whatever his name is. And I remember one of his projects was like really highly touted by the hip hop community, right, at large. And I felt like, oh, I need to check him out. Now, I didn't really like it. I can't remember which album it was. I didn't really like it, so I moved on. So when it came to this release from Billy Woods, who on Apple Music is listed as underground rap, put out this album called Maps, which has 17 tracks on it. Danny Brown is featured on here. Quell Chris is on here. Kenny Siegel on the beats. I was like, I'm going to check it out. And when I tell you, I couldn't delete this album off my phone fast enough, I actually did that. Because I was like, wow, this joint is so offbeat, and this is not for me. This is for them lyrical, spiritual, miracle cats who think that they are rising above humanity because they've figured out these offbeat bars. But, and I hope you didn't change the video yet, But I decided, you know what? I judged it a little too quick. I watched another review of the album from I can't remember the YouTube channel. My bad. But I watched their review and I watched how they analyzed it, right? And I was like, I don't think I was listening in that way. I just was going off of initial impressions, and that was that. So I put it back on my phone. I don't own it. I just have Apple Music. So I put it back on my phone, and I said, okay, one day when I'm going to work, when I'm not looking at work emails, I'm just on the train, just riding and listening. I'm going to listen again. Keeping in mind what these guys said about his flow, about Billy Wood's flow, his motivations, some of the bars. And when I tell you, when I did that, I liked the album a little bit more than I did before. Not enough to delete it, not enough to call it in my top 5, but I'm liking it more and more. Now, let me tell you what changed my mind. It wasn't that I watched reviews and these guys like it and I'm like, oh, well, they like it. Now I'm brainwashed and now I like it. No. First, when I listen to any music, doesn't matter what genre of music it is, but hip hop specifically, for me, it's more about the beat catching me, and then either your flow also catches me and what you're saying does. And sometimes they don't happen all at the same time. Sometimes the beat is what pulls me in, and maybe later I hear the bars and I'm like, oh, he's getting kind of crazy, right? But it took me back to a book that I've probably been reading for too long, and I need to do a review for it. But it's the book about Jay Dilla, right? That came out, I think, 2 years ago now, or 1 year. And I remember not only that book, but also what I learned. Shout out to Kill and Apartment 5B, or the Writer's Bench, right? Back then, what I learned was that I didn't initially like Jay Dilla beats because I didn't understand his technique, bars, right? I just didn't. I thought, yo, why this beat sound so offbeat? Why it sound like it's two beats playing at the same time and they don't blend? Like, what is this? But then when you understand the technique, the reason why he laid it the way he did, well, then it does start to sound on beat. It's just not the way we're used to hearing things that sound on beat. So Billy Wood sounds out of pocket if you're not used to hearing somebody rhyme like that. Like if you're not used to hearing someone like a MF Doom, right? They sound out of pocket, like all over the track. Like, damn, do you hear the beat? But when I started to focus on his lyrics and what he was saying, and the beat was more secondary to back him up, I was like, oh, now I hear it. It's not a traditional flow. It's not what you expect every time you hear MC rhyme. It's different. And it's honestly, it's more, and I'm not trying to call him king of rap. Don't get it twisted. But I'm like, oh, so now when I focus on the lyrics, I could hear where he is in pocket. Being out of pocket is in pocket for his flow. And I know this just sounds crazy. But once you keep that in mind and do like I did, right? You focus on the lyrics and make the beat secondary, then it all becomes crystal clear. Then I could hear his bars more. Before it was just like he was just a stream of consciousness, just saying rhyming things, right? But then I could hear the double and triple entendres and the metaphors and the setup and the themes and the concept. So this album is called Maps, and it has like the I guess this is like the life flyer on it, not the life. When you're on the plane and all that good stuff, if you watch it on video, you can see it. When you're on the plane and they like, pull down your mask and put it over your face like this, right? It has that. But what I didn't realize was that the whole album was kind of themed around a trip on an airplane, right? Soft landing. There's other references in here. The layover, right? There's a lot. And even within the bars. Now, Danny Brown said something on the song that he's featured, which is called Year Zero, that I thought, I was like, this is making me like this album even more. He said something like, Danny Brown, I'm back like young white girl, something like that. And I was like, wait, what? I'm back like young, or he said, what he said? Straight back, something like that. He said something like straight back or right back or something like that. But he was making a reference to white girls not having butts, right? Having backs, not butts, but backs. And I was like, damn, I didn't even catch that the first time because I was so thrown off by how offbeat everything sounds. Now, when it comes to the production, and I'm not going to take too much time on it. When it comes to the production, I think that's a little bit more hit or miss. Some of it is really dope, and some of it, you're going too far to be different, right? The first track, Kenwood Speakers, that beat, if you have headphones or a car or just in your crib, anything with a lot of bass, some of these beats hit you and you're like, yo, it's all right. So I say this to say it. I think it is definitely one of the better albums of this year. It just is. It took me a while to understand why and what they were doing. I was very dismissive of it, but now I get it. Is it going to be in heavy rotation? Maybe for a little bit, but I'm more of a in-pocket kind of hip-hop fan. Is it boom bap? Sort of, kind of, not really, blah, blah, blah. It's definitely not gangster rap. But it is an impressive display of skill in some regards, discipline, right? Because you got to be disciplined, in my estimation, to rhyme in a way where you sound out of pocket. You just hear the music differently. But for him and Kenny Siegel, for Billy Wizard Kenny Siegel, to put together a project that just sounds like it works, and maybe for me, you shave off like maybe 3 songs, I think it's something commendable. And I think this year for me, as I start to build my best of the year and top 5, it's going to feature more different, less than traditional, but just as dope, if not doper, hip-hop projects, because so far, between the JPEG Mafia and Danny Brown and this, like, I'm digging what I'm hearing, the creativity. And the Conway is growing on me. I know what I said about it, but it's growing on me. It's kind of been a heavy rotation, I ain't gonna front. So, I don't know, man. I would recommend it if you can do the things that I just said. I would recommend you check it out. If you hear a whole bunch of people saying it's dope or it's the best of the year, and you're used to listening to Griselda or Nas or whoever else, you might not like this, because you're gonna be like, damn, this dude's off beat. Like, what's going on? Just think about Dilla, and especially like them Slum Village days. Think about those beats by Dilla that sound like it's not really a rhythm, but you still love it. It's kind of one of those things. Hope this all makes sense. That's going to do it for me. You can follow me on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram at Vegas World INC. And please believe this podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, doesn't matter. Overcast, Pocket Cast, Castbox, or something, whatever that's called. All you got to do is search for Hip Hop Now Podcast, hit subscribe, and stay locked into weekly content. And if you are a person who are like, man, I want to see you, Jack. I heard you got braids. Well, I have a YouTube channel and I'm trying to get my numbers up, right? I hit 300, then it kind of stalled a little bit, right? I think I'm at like 310. I'm trying to get to 400, 500. I'd love to get to 500 subscribers. So if you watch this video and you like this kind of content and you like the other content I have hip hop wise, and please believe there's more on the way, hit subscribe. And more importantly, share it with people you know enjoy this kind of content. Until next time, y'all, I'm not a critic. I'm a fan. Peace.